Okay, so here's the video for how to make a Star Wars character in the D6 system. That is this. First, you need a character sheet. Here's an example character sheet. Super simple, one-sided, one page. Because creating character in this system is very easy, which is part of why I like it. You have 6 attributes: dexterity, knowledge, mechanical, perception, strength, technical. So the first thing you do is you choose a template. For example, Brash Pilot. Brash Pilot has dexterity of 3D, knowledge of 2D, mechanical 2D, perception of 3D, strength of 3D, technical of 3D. Most of the templates will balance out to an average of 3D because you have 18 dice with which to put the attributes for your character. You can create your own from scratch if you want, assigning the 18D as you see fit, as long as you keep it within your species minimums and maximums. If you do that, you don't start with any equipment, so that can be a detriment. Some of the ones, particularly a few of the templates, are very generous with equipment. So that's a thing you get from using an existing template. And the template is just for character creation. Once the game's in play, you can move your character in whatever direction you want, basically. You can grow however you'd like. You're not restrained by the same skills that you started with. So, you have those 6 attributes, you choose a template, and the template gives you starting skills. By the way, breaking down the dice, if you want to move things around, dice break down into D, +1, +2, D. So if your character has perception of 3D and you think the template has 3D, my character is more perceptive than that, but he's not real good with technical. So his technical is also 3D, so you could increase his perception to 3D +1 by decreasing his technical from 3D to 2D +2. And then if you want to go 2D +1, you could bring him from 3D +1 to 3D +2. You see how it balances out. After 3D +2 would come 4D, which, as he's a human, is the human max. You can get more than that during the course of game, but you won't be able to start with that. So, more than 4D. As a human, all their attributes are 2D, 4D. Minimum, maximum. You can't go below 2, you can't go above 4. Other species have different maxes and minimums. So if you're being a different species than human, just make sure that the template you choose fits within those minimums and maximums. And if you make any adjustments, stay within that. So after you've done that, you have skills. And the skills it shows in your template are your starting choices. You have 14D to put into your skills. Let's take, for example, the Brash Pilot. He has dexterity of 3D. If you want him to be good at shooting things with handheld blasters, then you're going to want to increase his blaster skill. Normally, since it's a dexterity skill, if he wanted to shoot someone, he would use his dexterity score of 3D. In the beginning of the game, in character creation, you can add full dice to that to increase it. We're allowing up to 3 for one skill, so you could give him blaster of 4D, 5D, or 6D. See, 4D is his base dexterity plus the 1D, then plus 2D plus 3D. You get that. If you had 2D plus 1 dexterity, adding a D would make it 3D plus 1. Straightforward. You have 14 dice to put into any of the skills that you can choose to start with according to the template as you see fit. Once the game begins, you will not be limited to skills that are on the template. At that point, if he decided, you know what, I want to learn about slug throwers, so I'm going to train archaic weapons, that's fine. It is required that you see that skill in use or are otherwise aware of it. So if he, for example, wanted to train lightsaber, it would help if he was aware of what a lightsaber was, just on a basic logic level. So you have 14 dice to put into your skills. And at that point, the technical part of the game is basically done, character creation wise. From there, you can write down the equipment that your template gives you, and you can figure out your background, personality, and objectives, and give yourself a quote, however you choose. I suggest, because we have a bunch of new people in the game, that because Star Wars is often a somewhat loose character system in the movies and such, that you don't define yourself too much. Your template tells you what generic sort of person you are, and if you want to know where you're from, of course, that's handy, but your character will largely be growing from your experiences in the game. So don't get too convoluted on your backstory. Beyond that, you have to decide, am I force sensitive or not? The possible answers are no, which means basically that it's real tough for you to do anything so horrible that you get a dark side point. And let me be clear, getting a dark side point is a very bad thing. Everyone gets one, but after that, you have to roll a d6, and if you roll less than the number of dark side points you have, you hand over your character to the GM, me, and lose that character to the dark side. So you don't want to get dark side points. The easiest way to avoid getting dark side points is to write no next to force sensitive. If you're not, then you have to commit really serious atrocities to get dark side points. You have to be like Tarkin has a dark side point for blowing up Alderaan. So if you do want to be force sensitive, then you will start with an extra force point. Now I'll explain this briefly. So you have character points and you have force points. If you're a droid, you have character points. You don't have force points because you're a robot. Character points let you add an extra die to a skill. They're also, for a single use, they're also what you use to train between missions. So you want to get character points, but not spend too many of them to survive. Force points are for the big deal moments. When Luke is shooting the Death Star trying to blow it up, that's when you spend a force point. A force point doubles all of the dice that you roll for that turn. So example, if Luke has Starfighter gunnery of 6D, if he uses the force, spends his force point, then he has 12D for that one turn, and suddenly it's going right down the thermal exhaust port. So if you want to be able to do stuff like that, then maybe force sensitive, yes. Which means instead of starting with 1, or if you're a droid goose egg, you would start with 2 force points. It also means you have the option to be able to use the force, which most people who are force sensitive never have any real awareness of the ability to use the force. They just are lucky. So if you want to be able to use the force, and some of you are being Jedi, in which case I do recommend using the force, we're adding a 7th attribute called use the force. Now you have 18 dice in your 6 attributes. You're still going to have 18 dice in your 7 attributes. So even though use the force is going to be capped at 2D to start, that does mean you're going to be a little bit weaker in the other 6 attributes, because that 2D has to come from somewhere, or that 1D, or whatever you want. You have to start at least 1D. Use the force has 3 skills: control, sense, and alter. Same as any of the other starting skills. If you want to have control, sense, or alter, you spend from your 14 starting skill dice. So if you want to have a brash pilot who is also trained as a Jedi and simply reduce his template starting attributes down a total of 2D to give him a 2D and use the force, and spend 9 of your 14 starting skill dice to pump up your control, sense, and alter so that they're all 5D, you can do that. You're not going to be a very good pilot or good at much of anything else to start, but that's okay. If that's your thing, that's your thing. I'm not here to judge. literally I am, but that's not the point. The point is you can use the Force, and you use the Force, you use Control, Sense, and Alter as your skills. For each dice that you start with in Use the Force, so 1D or 2D, you will get 3 Force skills. The Force skills can be found in the rule books that are available online. A lot of them have requirements. Some of them require you to have multiple roles. For example, it might require a control roll and a sense roll, or an alter roll and a control roll and a sense roll. So keep those in mind, and they all have requirements of what other skills you have to learn first. You're not going to be throwing around ridiculous Force powers to start, but you can build towards those. So you're going to start with either 3 or 6 specific Force skills if you start using the Force. You will then learn another Force skill every time one of your skills goes up a D. Not to start. So in game. So that's the basics for creating character. That entire bit about how to use the Force, if you put no next to Force sensitive, thank you. That was easy. You can ignore all that. And commit atrocities. It's at least one. You get one for free. Everyone gets one for free. So, because you can't roll below 1 on a D6, which turns you dark side. So, that's how to create a character. I'm sure people will have some questions. Feel free to let me know if you do. And I look forward to starting this game, hopefully right around New Year's or right after New Year's. It's been busy stuff getting us to this point. Cool.